Yep. All right.
Everything seems to be ready. Are we ready? Let's
Looks
hear it.
like it. Yeah, we're off and rolling. We're live.
All right. Well, this is sunny Riverside. Thank you for checking out the News Sausage Season 2
Season
after
2.
after our spring break and a bit of a hiatus. We've been all over doing things, seeing things, reading things, talking about things, talking to people, turning over stones, rolling stones, doing it all. So I
Yeah.
am Sunny Riverside, and I am joined by a new co-host for season 2. And this is someone I've known probably almost as long as I knew Dan Marks, uh, and he will be my co-host going forward. Thanks to Dan for the time that he put in on this show, and I'd like everyone to welcome my co-host Mark Daniels. Mark, you want to say hello?
Hello, sunny Riverside. I was really pleased to have an opportunity like this, and I think I've heard probably every News Sausage episode since the very beginning. I've been right there the whole time, and
Our biggest fan.
probably, and it is pretty amazing to hear the similarities between my voice, Mark Daniels, and the voice of Dan Marks from previous episodes in season 1.
It's
And
uncanny.
it is, and I've known you just as long as Dan Marks did, and it's just who could be more appropriate to fill in for Dan Marks other than myself, Mark Daniels. I'm
Yeah.
I'm pretty excited about this, and of course, Dan did. There's a lot of things Dan probably could have improved on, but I don't want to bash him too much. I don't want to say I'm better than Dan Marks, but certainly on par with Dan Marks in many respects. So bigly.
Yeah, let's not speak ill of the dead.
Well, I don't like to cast dispersions, or sometimes I do, actually, quite often, really. Um, but no, I don't. But often do.
Well, so Mark, so
So
Mark,
anyway,
yeah.
welcome to News Sausage. We're the show that grinds up the news of the week in a very sausagey kind of way, and together here with Sunny Riverside, it's an honor to speak with everybody again. This is Mark Daniels, and just to start out the show here real quick, we were just talking before we started rolling here live, and you hadn't heard about this Stacey Abrams, and she just wound up on my radar recently because she is now the first African American nominee for governor, African American woman nominated for governor to any state in the country, and it happens to be Georgia. And
Wow.
I listened to her, and boy, I'm really impressed. She's got a great stage presence. She speaks with the kind of conviction and authority that I mean, honestly, she's like watching a female version of Martin Luther King speak. In a lot of ways, I was really moved. And one thing that
Is she?
really,
What's her background? Do you know? Is she clergy?
to tell you the truth, I don't know much about her background other than that they're trying to smear her with the fact that she's $200,000 in debt, and
She must
which
have
which
gone to
sounds like,
college.
what's that?
She must have gone to college.
Well, I was going to say, there's a lot of people out there carrying a debt from college of $100 to $130,000. A lot of people like that out there. Not only to mention, a lot of people own a home more than $200,000 and carry a mortgage with that. That's debt. So
Yeah,
why
some
on
people get
earth?
elected president owing Russian banks millions.
That's right. That's right. We'll get to a little bit more of that later here in the show, but absolutely, doesn't seem like debt should disqualify you from any kind of office. In fact, it might even give you more insight as to what the typical Americans are experiencing out there. It's
Yeah.
kind of ridiculous. But Stacey Abrams, I know you haven't seen her yet, but I really highly encourage everybody to take a look at this one. She could be such a rising star. I could actually see her coming in late to a presidential race in 2020 and being a very strong candidate because she can immediately connect and she fully embraces strong progressive values. She says you cannot win if you don't embrace progressive values. So can't pretend to be a Republican. Got to be a Democrat. So I'm real excited to see her talk about that. The issues she's put out there. Very strong agenda. It's right there on her sleeve too. So that also, you're voting for something, not just identity politics or anything like that. You're connecting on issues that affect everyday life for a lot of these people. So love to see
Yeah,
that.
indeed. Indeed, good. Well, I hope she succeeds.
Me
There are
too.
a number
Absolutely.
of there are a number of rising stars. I was talking to my mother who lives in Arizona earlier today, and she was telling me about the competitive race for both of their Senate seats coming open. Of course, John McCain is not seeking reelection, and Jeff Flake is not seeking reelection. Unfortunately, I don't remember the names of these two candidates, but they're looks like they're pretty much yin and yang. One is a young woman who is running on her experience as a common person, that she grew up during the 80s and her parents lost their jobs, lost the house, lost the car, but through good old American hard work ethic, they have recovered, and she feels that she's a good candidate because she understands what the troubles of the real people. And the other one is a Trump clone, a woman who, to her credit, was the first female fighter pilot. She saw combat during Vietnam, but apparently that is her only qualification, and she likes guns.
Wow. Okay. Well, I know what I would choose in that particular case.
Yeah, yeah,
But yeah, that you could see that flip. I was also pretty happy to see that the Democrats didn't try to recruit Jeff Flake
yeah.
to run as as a Democrat, and we've
Yes,
seen
that's
Richard Painter up in Minnesota flip from GOP to Democrat, and seems like he's got a lot of support for taking over a Minnesota seat. But those are traditionally blue seats, and having a fresh Democrat right out of the GOP ranks.
yeah.
Uh, it was Bush's ethics lawyer, and I don't really consider the Bush administration to be overly ethical by any means.
No,
So I'm not feeling the excitement over potential Richard Painter candidacy, although it's nice to see him leave the GOP, but not as a Democrat candidate. I'm not ready to go there with that guy yet. I hope we don't see the party rush to back these candidates. In fact, I really hope that we see less of the parties backing any candidates during the primaries. especially Democrats recently with Donna Brazil's comments and things like that. To me, these parties just need to focus on facilitating democracy only, and not choosing candidates for us. Uh, I don't know.
Right. It should be a grassroots upward selection process, not a dictatorial downward process. I agree with that.
Right. Well, people just don't trust these candidates and parties so much anymore, and it doesn't build the trust. Certainly, with all these people out there, if you're, completely ignoring what they're uh, rooting for, or especially in a tight race. Um, Out in New York recently, we saw Tom Perez. Tom Perez, the DNC chairman, just backed Andrew Cuomo in his run for governor there in New York, and it's a tight primary. He's being challenged as the incumbent by actress Cynthia Nixon, who was on. She was the redhead on Sex and the City on HBO. But she's been connecting with a lot of voters, getting a lot of support, and they're still in a tight race. So Perez comes out and endorses Andrew Cuomo, which is, hey, come on, man, you're putting your thumb on the scale again. Yeah. And I'm not necessarily in favor of Cynthia Nixon or Andrew Cuomo. I don't have any problem with Andrew Cuomo, to be honest with you, personally. But I've got no beef with him, at least. But Cynthia Nixon also, just let the people of New York decide. It's a big state.
Yeah.
I don't see any reason. I can understand why they might want to protect, incumbents, and they try to support incumbents. I know that, but it's just not their place. When they're doing that.
Yeah, you'll not get any disagreement from me on that. It's breaking into the national stage as a candidate for governor is a huge step. Although, we've talked about this before. I've talked about this with Dan anyway. My philosophy on it is maybe a little bit old-fashioned, a little old school. I still believe that candidates ought to work their way up through the party system, working as an activist on the local level and demonstrating that they're putting in the work on behalf of the party before they get a party nomination, rather than just showing up off the street one day and saying, hey, I'm a Democrat, I'm running for senator, I'm running for governor.
Right. Well, one thing that's been, there's been a lot of inconsistency on the part of the Democrats. They've supported candidates one over another, and in the cases like Iron Stash up in Wisconsin, it's got a challenge from a Democrat that has served public office. Apparently, she's also now in a tight race, but Randy Bryce up in Wisconsin has been put into the red to blue program at the DCCC, meaning that he's got more backing from the party when he's new to the party, and we've got an actual progressive woman that's seems to be gaining a lot of steam out there. So again, when they've kind of pulled the trigger a little prematurely with that one, and again maybe have skewed the results of that primary. Out in Maine recently, even more inconsistent is we had a progressive Democrat running for Congress in Maine, and he was challenging independent Angus King, who was running for his second term in that seat. He was also a former governor of Maine, and very popular. But the party decided to back an independent over a Democrat who was actually an active Democrat. Wasn't like a new candidate by any means
Yeah.
running for Congress. And there's a glaring inconsistency on the fact that they're not choosing somebody who's paid their dues in the party. They're actually backing another candidate outside the party, and not with money, but they've endorsed him. And uh, he's not even a Democrat. What he is a moderate. And if you look at the inconsistencies, what is consistent about these things is that they are usually backing moderates. And that, to me, as a hard left progressive, is very disconcerting. I would.
But I certainly understand that. In my perspective, well, it's okay. Similar thing happening here in Iowa. I was very disappointed in the Democratic race for governor to see Nate Bolton fall by the wayside as a result of a Me Too thing. I'm disappointed in his conduct, but now it appears that the forces that are favoring Fred Hubble, who has not worked through the party, has not been elected before, although he has held briefly government positions. He has the benefit of having a shit ton of money, and and that seems to be one of his strongest characteristics. But again, a moderate as opposed to a true progressive. The other candidate, the scuttlebutt is that another candidate, Kathy Glasson, who is also she's been endorsed by Bernie Sanders, but the word is that she may have actually had this information for some time because one of the accusers is a member of her election committee and chose to withhold that information until just before the primary, which is kind of dirty politics in my opinion. So, but getting back to the subject that we were talking about, the party's support for moderates, I understand the support for moderates. I also really wish we could make one giant step past that and select a candidate who is truly progressive, who is truly representing the democratic ideals of fairness, openness, equality, education, those sorts of things. However, as a practical matter, the golden mean says you're more likely to, rather than divide people polarized, you're more likely to experience success if you have someone who appeals to a broader faction, who the people on the more progressive end can swallow hard and vote for because, well, in this case, really, any yellow dog is better than having Kim Jong-Reynolds actually get elected as governor, because remember, she was never elected. She is the acting governor.
Right. That's right. To tell you the truth, again, I'm going to admit, I am a very progressive person. I'm very liberal. And I had an opportunity to watch the governor debate on the Democrat side for the Democrats a while back, and I got to see Hubble and Kathy Glass, and to tell you the truth, the second tier of candidates I really liked quite a bit. In fact, I thought the person I was most impressed by was that I'd never heard of her. Was Dr. McGuire.
Yeah.
And she really, for really, it seemed like the biggest issues in Iowa were things like mental health care, just your health insurance coverage, where are you going to go to get that kind of stuff, getting the privatization out of the Medicaid program like they did here recently, and just a lot of the things happen to be related to health care. And then at the end of the debate, she even mentioned that we didn't even really talk about science in any of these questions we covered in the debate. And I have a medical background. I have strong beliefs about science, and start bringing up, environmental impacts of the way we do business here in the state. And to tell you the truth, I really thought she was awesome. Weber, I believe, he was a former mayor, the African American candidate. I thought he was.
No, his name is Wilburn, Ross Wilburn.
Ross Wilburn, yes, that's right. And he was probably my second favorite of that debate. But watching Fred Hubbell, what I can say about him that I really liked was he does have a lot of experience with the philanthropy end of things, and has really a strong presence. I was kind of surprised by that. I didn't expect that. He seemed kind of flaccid to me, but he has a commanding presence, and he seems to have a way of marshaling the troops that I thought would be very effective as a leader here in Iowa. And he doesn't have elected experience, but through his philanthropy efforts, he did have a lot of experience leading, which I really liked. And I would have no problem voting for that guy in November. I don't have any objection to that. He wasn't my favorite, but I didn't have any problem with him at all. So as a hard lefty, he was fine.
Yeah. When I had an opportunity to have a conversation with him last winter, wish that I had recorded it. He seemed pretty rational. He didn't necessarily seem to be couching his responses to my questions in a way that felt as if it were tailored just to his perception of who I am. He seems to be consistent. He seems to be consistent in his message, his beliefs, which is a strong characteristic in my opinion.
Right. That was a live degassing event there, by the way. I'm gonna change subjects here on this real quick, just because one of the other things I've been paying attention to over the last couple weeks has been my home island of Hawaii.
Yes,
called it home for 14 years. Is experiencing a lava event unlike I had ever seen during my time. And honestly, you have to kind of go back to the 1960 Kapoho eruption, and now they're comparing it more to a 1954 eruption, I believe. But this is definitely a major event going on out there.
Were those previous historic eruptions? Were those also from Mauna Kea?
They're all from Kilauea, not Mauna Kea. Mauna Kea is where the telescopes are.
Oh,
it's cool. It's been dormant for hundreds of years. It could light up again in the future, but the hot spots right there under Kilauea. Mauna Loa is more likely to erupt. It did in the 1980s, and that actually had a lava flow that came close to Hilo, about 3 miles outside. But what we're seeing out there today in Hawaii is just unreal. Lava is just pouring out of that mountain, and we were able to see it coming, because this eruption is not really new. That's why I called it just a lava event. This eruption has been going on since 1983, and what happened was that the pu'u, the cone that the lava would erupt from time to time and flow out of and spill out of. It wasn't coming out of directly out of the summit. The top of the volcano was coming out the side, and all of a sudden, a couple weeks ago, the crater floor, which had hardened, and there was still steam, and every once in a while you'd see some spurt in there, but it the crater floor had become rock, solid rock, basically, and it had been like that for years. In fact, they were studying the little things that had formed on the floor of the crater and had names for them and all this kind of stuff. And scientists studied it for years and years and years. And then 2 weeks ago, the floor drops out and disappears. The lava sinks down like thousands of feet, just drops into nowhere. And along with it, all the rocks. And somewhere along the way, it clogged that exit point. So that is now dead. They've declared that it's never going to come back. It's clogged. So we're watching the news, and it just stops. And we're like, well, there's all these earthquakes going on out there and everything else. Like 600 in a 3-day period. It was something ridiculous.
Wow.
So the lava just disappears, and we know it didn't stop. It's going to come out somewhere, and so it's like Russian roulette. Where's it going to pop out on this island? People are freaked because the island is really just like Swiss cheese. There's lava tubes that run through it that really haven't even been, charted yet. So it could come out of someplace, and with they don't know how much would come out, but we knew that it was going to come out someplace. And so here in Iowa, we had a tornado warning and stuff like that. I had friends going, "Are you watching the tornado stuff on the news?" And I'm like, "No, I'm trying to figure out where this lava is going to pop out." And they're like, "What?" So the lava starts coming out through this neighborhood after more cracks open up and a little bit of spattering, but it's just flooding out of there right now, and it was spraying up in the air hundreds of feet, like 6 stories in the air, way above the trees around it, which the trees around it, just to put it in scale for a lot of people, what you're looking at is some trees that are 3 to 4 stories high, and it is like shooting twice as high as these trees up into the air, and wow. It's just, it makes them look like toys. When you drive under these things, they make a canopy that blocks out the sunlight from way above. They're amazing trees, and there's 40 some houses already that have been overrun with lava the way it's pouring out. I personally sold property in that area as a realtor, and it was very fortunate. I talked to everybody who was looking at that place out of buying it because it was Lava Zone 1. You can't even get a mortgage for those places because you can't get insurance for the house because nobody wants to sell you insurance to be there. So most of these people are buying homes with cash. It's their life savings, and just rolling the dice, figuring what's the odds that's going to happen to me, and boom, there's a lot of people who just lost everything, and it's horrible to see that. I've got friends that have farms out there and stuff like that, and they're trying to find places to put their dogs and sawmills and trying to get stuff out, hoping they can go back there sometime, but it's becoming more and more obvious that this is not going to stop anytime soon, maybe not for years, and this whole area is probably lost to this volcanic activity. It's just going to keep on going. So who knows what's going to happen out there. But sorry for that diatribe about but it's just been amazing.
Yeah. I was hoping you were going to
incredible.
I was hoping you were going to bring that up because I wanted your inside perspective on that. Now, but it's life as usual everywhere outside of about that 10 square miles, right?
Well, I don't even think that here in Iowa it seems like life is as usual right now.
Well,
But yeah, it's been way
with
over.
respect to the volcano.
A lot of people are getting a lot of mixed messages on mainstream media that they're evacuating Honolulu, which isn't even on the same island. Uh, they're showing, Kilauea is a 4,000-foot tall volcano. It's active. Don't underestimate the devastation it could cause the entire Pacific. But uh, there's, we've got 11,000-foot mountains on Hawaii, so it's not a major mountain even on the island. So it's really overblown. It's only a very small area, but the effects of the acidic rain. People use catchment water out there, and I saw a video of somebody pH testing their catchment water. Neutral is 7. Water's supposed to be 7. It's not an acid or a base. Their pH level on their catchment tank has already switched to like a 3.6, which
Wow.
is pretty acidic, already for a big, 5,000 gallon tank of water. You wouldn't expect it to get that acidic this fast, but whew,
There's just that many gases and ash in there.
yeah. So over time, this is going to have long-lasting health effects for the people around Hilo, on the east side of the island, the south side of the island. Everything blows west over to Kona side too. So, and towards Honolulu. So they might even experience a lot more. Well, they are right now. They're experiencing a lot more fog all the way over in Honolulu, which is crazy.
Wow.
But before I lose my voice, I'm a little sick. We haven't even talked yet about the impeachment. I totally miscalled it. Or I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Dan Marks did, not me. Not me. I'm Mark Daniels. Dan Marks earlier. I'm glad. That's one thing. It's good that we got rid of Dan because he was way off on that call. By the end of March or April, we were supposed to see an impeachment happen. What's that? Maybe it's going to be coming here pretty soon. But, it seems to me the biggest impediment to the impeachment is not the Republicans, but the Democrats who just won't seem to act on it. And, we saw some things happen recently that are not even related to the Russia thing. And I think even if it's not a Russia thing, maybe they should consider impeaching about it because, we just saw, according to, well, let me just read this real quick. The Business Insider had an article that came out recently about how Trump, within 3 days of the Chinese government agreeing to provide $500 million in loans to an Indonesian theme park that the Trump organization has a deal to license President Trump's name to, the president stunningly ordered sanctions to be rescinded against a major Chinese telecom company. ZTE gets a special deal, and this is when we first find. What's that?
Right under the nose of the American people.
Right. Yeah. I mean, broad daylight. This was something that was even blasted by people like Lindsey Graham, Marco Rubio. Marco Rubio said this crushes U.S. companies. This is not a good thing.
And what about the emoluments clause?
Well, that too.
That's directly lining his pocket. And yes, he's undermining domestic businesses by cozying up to a foreign business. It's unconscionable. It's illegal, I would say.
It is. Well, right from the Constitution, it says the president, vice president, and all civil officers of the United States shall be removed from office on impeachment for and conviction of treason, bribery, and other high crimes and misdemeanors. So bribery is right there. It's not even like, well, maybe if it's a high crime or a misdemeanor, let's figure it. No, it's listed right there first, treason and bribery, and then the other stuff. This is a primary reason to get rid of them. It's right out there in broad daylight. Where is the impeachment? What are we waiting for at this point? Uh, I don't get it. Do you have any speculation on this?
Well, I have been consoling myself all along that the impeachment will come when Mueller is satisfied that he has pursued his investigation as far as it needs to go. And I'm hoping that that's still the case. And Mueller's probably just scooping up all of these things into his briefcase, all of these events, the money from China straight into Trump's pocket, all of the income that he is receiving from the Trump Hotel in D.C., where foreign officials prefer to stay, lining his own pockets with his trips to Mar-a-Lago and all of his other resorts that just put money in his own pocket out of the Treasury. And in addition to collusion, in addition to working with foreign entities to undermine the election, for example, there was a high-level meeting on Capitol Hill this week where members of the defense, or rather the Justice Department, at Trump's behest, came and disclosed a bunch of classified documents. And at first, only going to be the Republicans, including Devin Nunes, who the last time he was entrusted with confidential classified information in his role as chair of the Intelligence Committee, is that right?
Yes.
When he was allowed access to classified material in the middle of the night, 2 a.m. He busted ass over to the White House to alert Trump as to what this dirt is that we have on him.
Yes.
He's absolutely the wrong person. I can't believe that he retained that seat as the chair of the committee after pulling that stunt.
Right.
So Trump's lawyer, Giuliani, was there, and Giuliani's synopsis of it was, well, sure, we colluded, but you guys shouldn't have had that guy that you had spying on the Russians tattle on us.
Right.
And geez, and it's just they're not even denying the underlying allegations anymore.
Right.
Now they're attacking civil or criminal procedure. It's shocking.
It is. I can't believe all this, but the fact that they're getting away with it in broad daylight, and honestly, since everybody's refuted the claims that there's a spy embedded in the Trump campaign, this, in retrospect, is clearly a concocted story by the White House, by Nunes, to glean the information from the investigation so they can start to create a story based on the evidence that the investigation already has. So completely, I mean, it's so foul. Chuck Schumer, and I know this could be very partisan. He's the leader of the Senate for the Democrats. It could be a very partisan guy, but he's totally right. Well, let me play this audio here real quick. it's going to answer some questions.
First, I think it's totally inappropriate. It would be inappropriate for the White House to inquire of any ongoing investigation and put pressure to direct its outcome. It's even worse when the president and his campaign are subject to that investigation. So I think it's very wrong, and I think it shouldn't be done. It's unprecedented, it's outrageous, and it has overtones of things that would be done in a banana republic, where the dictator just pushes what he wants done. But second, if they're going to do it, you take them at their word. Oh, this should be a fair process. It should be bipartisan. So for every Republican at the table, there should be the Democratic counterpart. If Chairman Nunes is there, Ranking Member Schiff should be there. If Senator Grassley is there, Senator Feinstein should be there. It should be bipartisan. But I just find it mind-numbing, the kind of assault that this president and some of his allies have launched on the Justice Department, and it's just so un-American.
There you have it. Totally inappropriate. Something that has overtones of things that would be done in a banana republic. I can't say it any better than that.
No. I would have greater respect for Trump if he at least was doing things appropriate for a Benetton.
Right. It in the Constitution, we're supposed to have this nation for to promote the general welfare, and it seems to me that we have really lost our way when we've turned this into such a plutocracy where we are literally throwing 37,000 elderly out into the streets in Louisiana because of Medicare cuts. And meanwhile, this guy's lining his pockets with a $500 million loan for a Trump amusement park. Come on. This is such a bunch of crap. It's just not, it was funny for a while, but it's gotten to the point where you just see this stuff and it really grates on you because, if you or I get pulled over, we could be subject to the rubber glove inspection from behind, and God only knows what else we would be subjected to these days. And there's real chances for bad things to happen. People are getting put in jail for things they didn't even do these days. DNA testing is proving a lot of people innocent, stuff like that. So it's people are suffering out there. We've got 25% of our population in jail, and to see this flagrant violation of law, ethics, Constitution, right out there in front of everybody all the time is people are just gonna they definitely need an icon so that you can respond on Facebook with a thumbs up or head exploding. We've got a wow. We've got a sad. We've got an angry. A haha. We've got a heart. We need a head exploding emoticon on Facebook because my head is exploding almost on a daily basis looking at this crap.
Yeah, I agree. I read a lot of news sources on a daily basis. That's part of my routine. That's, believe it or not, that's how I am unwinding after work, is reading BBC, AP, NPR, Al Jazeera, and CBS. And my blood pressure's been rather high lately, and maybe I should stop that. But yes, my head explodes on a daily basis. It doesn't end. It's not as if these are unusual blips. These outrageous occurrences are actually de rigueur. They are just the course of business for this present establishment, this administration. And what happens if we never return to normal? What is normal? What if this is the new normal?
Right. And this kind of gets back to why are we letting this happen? Where is that impeachment? And it will become the new normal if the Democrats don't grow a pair and challenge them on it. The Republicans are saying that they are going to run on defending Trump from the impeachment of the Democrats. And Nancy Pelosi's response recently was, we can't even say the word impeachment. But we are. We talk about it all the time. And they don't even want to talk about impeachment because the numbers aren't there. And they feel like if they get the House in November next year, they'll talk about impeachment. Well, if we don't get 60 votes in the Senate, are we also going to be kicking the can down the road merely because the Democrats, as a party, the Democrat leadership, likes to run against Trump?
Well, there's another aspect to that, though, and I think a pragmatic one. The forces who are in favor of impeachment, I'll call them the rational people, are also pragmatic in as much as they fully understand the corruption that they're up against, and they're only going to get one bite at this apple. And so if they bring articles of impeachment now, before Trump or before Mueller has concluded all of his investigation and all of the evidence is in, they're not going to succeed because the Republicans in the House simply don't care. Right. They really don't care. They accept what Trump does. They pretend not to notice, meanwhile lining their own pockets. But they're not doing what they've been elected to do. They are only doing the business of their wealthy donors rather than Joe Blow on Main Street. It's appalling, and there should be a reset button where all members of Congress are up for are barred from seeking there should be term limits in the House, is what I'm trying to get at.
Oh, I don't think so, but we'll debate that another time. I'm against term limits, but sorry.
Yeah. No, I think perpetual election in the Senate might actually be a good and stabilizing thing, because so far, post-Trump era, the Senate has, in many instances, remained a voice of reason, whereas the kindergarten class in the House is just run amok based upon gossip and unsubstantiated nonsense. It seems to me that the House is already an unstable environment, and unfortunately there is a huge advantage to being an incumbent, and once elected either to the House or the Senate, those people tend to put down roots and stay there as long as they're able.
Right.
And yeah.
They have a 90% retention rate there in Congress. We only have a turnover of 10% each election on average. So it's pretty stagnant. There's not a lot of turnover out there.
And the irony of that is the Congress has a devastatingly low approval rating on the whole, but the average voter says, well, no, that's the other guy's, not my representative. My representative's a good guy.
Well, that uh, there is an idea out there that I kind of like as a solution, and it's not term limits, but it has the potential to limit terms. It's it's an idea that they have in some other countries. They have a no faith vote of the people,
No
and
confidence.
there should be a no faith in Congress vote structured something like that. If you don't have any faith in Congress, knowing that the people who keep voting for these people that absolutely everybody else in the country can't stand, that we don't like your representatives out there, folks. I don't even like my own representatives right now, but especially yours.
Yeah.
And the idea behind this is if you have these particular people that just live in Congress forever, and they suck, then we have a no confidence vote saying that we don't really like any of these guys out there in Congress. Let's clear the slate. We'll force everybody to run again. Doesn't mean that you're necessarily wiped out of Congress, but it ups the ante that you would then have to win by 60% to keep your seat. Uh, Basically, an up or down vote should, let's say there's a vote for Chuck Grassley in a no confidence vote. It would be everybody in Congress, but Chuck Grassley would have to face getting 60% or the no vote of let's say if it's more than 40%, then he's going to lose his seat. Then you're going to have a special election to fill that seat with a new candidate. Basically, Republicans could pick a new one. So the no faith in Congress idea, I kind of like it. It's not a lot of people have ever heard about this kind of idea, especially not U.S. politics. So,
Well, it's common in parliamentary governments.
right, and certainly I think we could probably use a situation where we kind of clear the jury of it's basically a contaminated jury pool out there, and it's similar to a courtroom where they've got a tampered jury. The judge could order in a new jury, could clear the jury. So uh, we kind of need that kind of mechanism. And I've been putting it off, or at least Dan Marks has been putting it off for many shows of all of season one. But well, no, there was one show where there was some discussion of it. But the Article 5 process in the Constitution, where you amend the Constitution, this is a real thing, and it's never been used before in our nation's history. And at a time where we're looking at our country turning into a banana republic, where there is lawlessness, and we're not a nation of laws anymore, it's really time to come together and talk about what we need to do to make this country reflect more of our values, more of our goals, and create the country we want our grandchildren and their children to live in. Because this sucks. I don't want to hand my kids a world where if they do get a student loan to get a better education, they're going to be punished with it with $130,000 student loan bill.
Right.
That's not the world. If it's more than a hand-me-down world, it's just a broken system that's meant to trap them. If why is any kid going into college supposed to understand that these loans that they're getting are really unsustainable? It's a situation that's not meant to work. They should
Yeah.
expect it to work. They should expect that they're given an opportunity to take part in something that will work for them. And we've taken that away. They're getting charged insane interest rates of like 7-8%, I think, on these things. So hard as hell to keep up with those payments. It's way above what we charge the rest of the market. It's abusive, really. It's horrible. What are we thinking? These are our kids.
Right. I don't have much to add to that.
All right. Well, well, again, certainly look into the Article 5 process. I think we should talk about it someday soon here because honestly, it's really getting to the point where it just screams reboot, reboot this country. We're jumping the tracks here, and it's time to kind of reform ourselves in really fundamental ways. We could certainly deal with a lot of stronger voting rights and things like that too. So we need to have a national conversation about all of these things and make it a better world for everybody. So I'll get off my soapbox on that for the week. All right. Is there anything else you want to cover this week?
No, I think we have rambled around, touching bases nationally. Oh, well, one thing. Let's talk about, do you want to talk about the North Korea-U.S. summit?
Oh, yeah, actually I do. I can't believe I almost forgot about that because I do have an insight to what's going on here that I think it's kind of being missed by Fox News and the Trump administration. But I want to hear what you have to say first.
Well, the big picture that I see is that Trump set his sights on regime change in North Korea a long time ago and has been doing little annoying things to piss off North Korea. And he has done it in such a way that he presents himself as a tough guy, stand up to this lunatic. Really, he's acting like a bully. But at the same time, I guess, I hate to say it, but you have to give him some amount of credit for being able to get North Korea to a table in order to negotiate. Trump's expectations are never going to be acceptable to North Korea, and he knows that, and he's been preparing to blow him up. He made this, it's right out of his Art of the Deal book, where his crucial tactic is plan the deal, orchestrate the deal, negotiate the deal, and then at the last minute walk away. After everybody's put their, after everyone has revealed their position and revealed their limits, then you walk away and ask for, and then they say, well, gosh, but we're ready to do this. And then he comes back and says, okay, we're going to do it, but I need this, this, and this in addition to that, which is still going to be unreasonable, which is then going to justify him in saying, well, we tried, so now we're going to blow him up.
Right.
So that's my take on it. It's appalling, but it would be really neat if there could be some mutual coming to terms that would respect the sovereignty of this sovereign nation, whether or not we agree with their policies, how they treat their people, with, you know, their system of government and so on. But to de-escalate the constant threat of having South Korea or Japan blown up over actions of the United States is a hopeful thing.
Right. Well, you know, I think you're right. I think that honestly, the North Koreans also have seen it your way. I think they are anticipating his actions much better than he is, and they don't have the ability to really defend themselves from an attack like that. Even though they, you know, try to keep their people believing things like that. So it seems to me that they've resorted to using the best weapon at their disposal, which happens to be public relations and international diplomacy. And they're seeing this president really put some wedges between the United States, Great Britain, France, Germany, China.
Oh yeah,
I mean, you just we're losing allies right and left.
and Trump is pulling the same strategy with Iran. But go on.
Well, yeah. But again, I think I kind of underestimated the intelligence, I think, of the North Koreans, because they have seemed to have played him this entire way, and as the rhetoric kind of increased between Kim and Trump on Twitter, they were throwing back little quips back and forth at each other. Kim, like, all of a sudden just stopped, and it was like we woke up, changed strategies. Now we're going to play this guy and make the United States become the rogue nation that we've labeled North Korea all this time. And you'll kind of see us look more and more unreasonable with their very reasonable, because the optics on this, we just saw Kim Jong-un, or at least a very, very close body double, cross that border and have tacos or something and sign the end of, or at least they're going to work towards peace and work towards ending the Korean War that started, nearly 70 years ago, something like that.
Right.
This is the optics on this is, look, here's this peaceful dictator. He's still a dictator, but now he's looking like a benevolent leader who wants peace. And then he suggested, as he agrees to meet with Trump, or reaches out to Trump for a meeting, and Trump accepts, then he finds an excuse with the military exercises in the ocean around there. Because of that, it's intimidating. He's going to consider canceling those discussions. Trump responds to that narrative by saying, all right, screw you, these talks are over. He's not reacting to anything militarily Kim Jong-un is doing. He's reacting to the words that they may cancel it. So instead of looking embarrassed, he puts his pride out there, which they could anticipate because he's an egomaniac. That he's like, no, screw you. If you don't want to have talks, I cancel the talks first. We look like the rogue idiot dictator nation that can't get along with its neighbors, and he doesn't get it. I don't think the guy gets it at all. He's losing a game of PR that's going to result in stronger alliances between North Korea and their neighbors.
Yeah, and China, probably.
China already is an ally of North Korea.
But I mean, that'll strengthen that.
Yes, but it also invites Russia back into dealing with North Korea a little bit easier. And you might even see European leaders start to reach out to North Korea like, well, you want peace? Okay, we'll help you achieve peace. We'll keep the United States out of this because they're not helping the situation. And we are being alienated by a PR campaign that's kicking our ass. He's beating us worse by ruining our diplomatic relations than if he dropped a bomb. He's killed us with peace. It's true. His country's going to benefit from this. We're not. This is not helping us at all.
Right. No, not in any way. Not with our allies, not with our enemies. It's grossly mishandled.
Well, we're in a trade war with Canada and Mexico, so we literally can't get along with our neighbors right now. So
right.
it's This little voice inside of me that the boy that went to Sunday school at my local temple, learning about the Holocaust and all that kind of stuff, that always wondered, when you get older, if something like that would have happened to you, what would you have done? And I kept telling myself I'd leave the country. I would have escaped Germany for sure. I would not have been a Holocaust victim. And now a little voice inside of me is going, "What the hell are you still doing here?" This is getting really scary.
That is a sad observation, Mark.
Well, it's a little unsettling, that's for sure. But I am totally losing my voice. Glad you brought up the Kim Jong-un, because I have been a little stunned that they don't seem to get it. And to me, it's like really obvious that we are getting our ass kicked on PR. So I'm glad you brought that up. But I'm losing my voice and definitely need to blow my nose here pretty soon. So I got to call it a day.
Okay. Well, in that case, we're gonna call it a wrap on season 2, episode 1 of the New Sausage with your co-host and cohorts, Mark Daniels and Sonny Riverside. This is Sonny. I'm gonna bow out and say to the world, it's almost June. I encourage everyone to get outdoors, get some fresh air, look at the green trees, look at the flowers, look at the grass, look at the wildlife. There is a beautiful world out here, and if you look for it. It's not everyone's responsibility to look for all the dark clouds, because there are silver linings and there's always hope.
Yes. And aloha to everybody out there in Hawaii. Thanks again for listening. Aloha.
Adios.